What if a newlywed wife stumbled upon a hidden truth so horrifying that it shattered her perception of love and trust? This gripping true crime story from Chicago, USA, unveils the dark and twisted spiral of betrayal that transformed what should have been a joyful union into a chilling nightmare. As the shocking reality of her husband's secret unfolds, it pushes her to the edge, leading to an unimaginable act that no one saw coming and leaving a community reeling in disbelief and horror. Meet Sarah Mitchell, a 28-year-old passionate elementary school teacher. With a nurturing spirit and a love for children, Sarah had always dreamed of building a loving family of her own. She radiated joy and warmth, and her recent marriage to her husband filled her with hope for a bright future together. Growing up in a close-knit family in Chicago, Sarah was known for her caring nature and dedication to her work. She poured her heart into teaching, inspiring her students every day. Friends and family admired her commitment and enthusiasm, making her a beloved figure in her community. Sarah's wedding felt like a fairy tale. Surrounded by friends and family, she exchanged vows, believing they were destined for a blissful life together. For Sarah, every moment felt perfect, and she couldn't wait to create a future filled with love, laughter, and the possibility of starting a family. Little did she know, the secrets lurking beneath the surface would soon unravel her dream. Michael Mitchell, Sarah's 30-year-old husband, was a charming and charismatic individual with a magnetic personality that drew people to him. Known for his ambition and dedication, he worked as a marketing executive, always dreaming big and striving for success. His warmth and confidence made Sarah feel loved and secure, and he often spoke of their shared dreams of starting a family together. However, beneath this polished exterior lay a significant secret. Michael had undergone gender transition years before their marriage, a truth he had kept hidden from Sarah. The fear of rejection loomed over him, leaving him conflicted. He desperately wanted to build a happy future with Sarah, but the burden of concealing his past weighed heavily on him. As their life together unfolded, the strain of this unspoken truth grew more intense, threatening to unravel everything he hoped for. Close family and friends played a vital role in the lives of Sarah and Michael Mitchell, providing a supportive network that celebrated their union. Sarah's parents, Joan and Robert, were particularly involved, showering their daughter with love and guidance. They often expressed their joy in seeing Sarah so happy and were eager to help her build a future with Michael. Joan, a nurturing figure, frequently offered advice on marriage, while Robert bonded with Michael over shared interests and hobbies, reinforcing the sense of family unity. Michael's close friend, Jason, also played an essential part in the couple's life. As a confidant, Jason often provided emotional support, encouraging Michael to embrace his dreams and aspirations. He admired the bond between Sarah and Michael, believing they were destined for a lifetime of happiness. Unbeknownst to them, this tight-knit group remained oblivious to the secret brewing beneath the surface. They celebrated milestones, shared laughter, and created memories together, all while Michael grappled with the burden of his hidden past. The facade of a perfect life continued, but the pressure of maintaining this illusion intensified, setting the stage for a shocking revelation that would forever alter their relationships. Sarah and Michael Mitchell appeared to be the perfect couple, radiating happiness and love as they embarked on their newlywed journey. Their life together was filled with shared dreams and joyous moments, from cozy date nights to weekend getaways with friends and family. They often spoke about starting a family, discussing names for future children, and planning their dream home. To their friends and family, they were a picture of marital bliss, showcasing their affection for one another at social gatherings and family events. Sarah's nurturing nature complemented Michael's ambitious spirit, creating an aura of promise and optimism for their future. However, beneath this idyllic surface lay hidden tensions that neither Sarah nor Michael could ignore. Michael's secret weighed heavily on him, creating an underlying sense of anxiety that threatened to unravel the very fabric of their relationship. While they outwardly embraced their love and shared ambitions, Michael struggled with the fear that revealing his past would shatter Sarah's perception of him and jeopardize their future together. As they navigated their new life as a married couple, the contrast between their public persona and private struggles began to grow more pronounced, foreshadowing the tumultuous events that lay ahead. The couple lived in Denver, Colorado, a city known for its stunning mountain views and vibrant culture. Nestled in a cozy apartment in a lively neighborhood, their home was filled with warmth and light. Sunlight streamed through the large windows, illuminating their carefully curated living space, which reflected their personalities, a blend of modern elegance and personal touches that showcased their love for adventure. Having only recently tied the knot, Sarah and Michael were in the honeymoon phase of their marriage, seemingly enjoying a perfect start. They often took strolls in nearby parks, explored the local coffee shops, and spent evenings hosting friends for dinner. The couple appeared to embody the ideal life, full of laughter and promise. Yet, as they settled into this new chapter, the tension began to simmer beneath the surface. Michael's secret loomed like a dark cloud over their happiness, casting shadows on moments that should have been filled with joy. As they navigated the challenges of married life, the pressure to maintain the illusion of perfection grew heavier for Michael. The once enjoyable activities became reminders of the facade he was desperately trying to uphold, creating a growing divide between his inner turmoil and the image of bliss he presented to Sarah. In their seemingly perfect life, the circumstances surrounding Sarah and Michael began to shift as the weight of Michael's secret grew more unbearable. Michael's transition had been a significant part of his past, one he believed was behind him, yet it became a ticking time bomb in their relationship. The fear of rejection haunted him. He knew that revealing the truth about his identity could shatter the life they had built together and the dreams they shared. As Sarah started to sense something was amiss, small clues began to surface, leading her to question the authenticity of their relationship. Late nights at work, unexplained absences, and subtle changes in Michael's behavior raised her suspicions. The warmth and connection they once shared started to feel strained, causing Sarah to spiral into feelings of doubt and insecurity. One fateful evening, while looking for a photo to frame for their apartment, Sarah stumbled upon an old document hidden in Michael's belongings that hinted at his past. The shocking discovery sent her heart racing and ignited a whirlwind of emotions: betrayal, anger, and confusion. As the tension escalated, Sarah's perception of her husband transformed, and the idyllic life she envisioned began to crumble. Consumed by feelings of deception and hurt, she found herself at a crossroads, torn between her love for Michael and the revelation that could change everything. The dark path ahead grew clearer, and in her turmoil, she started to entertain thoughts that she had never imagined. Thoughts that would lead her down a dangerous road from which there would be no turning back. Following her shocking discovery, Sarah's demeanor towards Michael underwent a profound transformation. The warmth and affection that once characterized their relationship were replaced by a chilling distance. She began to exhibit signs of emotional withdrawal, often lost in thought and unwilling to engage in the light-hearted conversations they once enjoyed. In the days that followed, Sarah's behavior grew increasingly cold and hostile. Simple interactions became fraught with tension as she struggled to mask her feelings of betrayal. She avoided eye contact during meals, opting for silence instead of the playful banter they used to share. When Michael tried to reach out, expressing concern for her well-being, Sarah would snap back with sharp retorts, her words dripping with resentment. Friends and family began to notice the shift. The couple, who had been the picture of happiness, now seemed like strangers to those around them. Sarah's laughter was replaced by a hardened expression, and the joy that had once radiated from her was dimmed by a simmering anger. The disparity in their dynamic created an unsettling atmosphere, making even the simplest of moments feel heavy with unspoken tension. As Michael sensed the growing chasm between them, his heart sank with each cold glance from Sarah. He desperately tried to reconnect, but the more he reached out, the more Sarah recoiled. The foundation of their marriage, once built on trust and love, now teetered on the brink of collapse, shrouded in uncertainty and unaddressed grievances. The underlying tension grew, setting the stage for an explosive confrontation that neither of them could foresee. As Sarah's resentment festered, friends and family began to take notice of the troubling changes in her demeanor. What had once been an engaging and lively presence now seemed overshadowed by a growing sense of bitterness. During gatherings, she would force a smile, but it rarely reached her eyes. Those who had known her for years could sense the underlying tension. The vibrant woman they adored was slipping away. At dinner parties and family functions, Sarah's strange comments raised eyebrows. When asked how married life was treating her, her responses were curt and laced with sarcasm. "Oh, you know, just living the dream," she would say, her tone dripping with irony, leaving friends uncomfortable and unsure how to respond. The warmth and enthusiasm she once exuded had been replaced by a biting edge that shocked those who loved her. Even her close friends, who had been part of her life for years, could feel the shift. They exchanged concerned glances as Sarah's laughter became infrequent and her jokes turned dark. At one gathering, she made a joke about hiding things that left everyone momentarily silent, unsure whether to laugh or recoil. Her friends began to wonder if she was truly happy or if there was something deeper troubling her. Family members, particularly her parents, sensed the strain in her relationship with Michael. Joan, her mother, tried to engage her in heart-to-heart conversations, but Sarah would deflect with vague answers, hiding the storm brewing inside. Robert, her father, became increasingly worried, picking up on the whispers of discontent from Sarah's close-knit group. The signs of trouble were becoming unmistakable, and as Sarah's inner turmoil seeped into her interactions, the facade she had carefully maintained began to crack. Her loved ones were left feeling helpless, unable to decipher the underlying reasons for her growing resentment, but acutely aware that something was terribly wrong. As Sarah's sense of betrayal deepened, the emotional turmoil within her grew increasingly unbearable, driving her to the edge of a precipice she never imagined she would approach. Each reminder of Michael's secret felt like a dagger to her heart, amplifying her feelings of hurt and anger. The whispers of doubt echoed relentlessly in her mind, convincing her that her life had been built on a lie, and the notion of the life they shared felt like a cruel joke. Late at night, when the world outside had fallen silent, Sarah found herself consumed by thoughts that twisted and turned like a relentless storm. Memories of their wedding day, once filled with joy, morphed into haunting reminders of the deception. The images of Michael in his tuxedo, smiling and promising a future together, became a facade hiding the truth she now loathed. Each moment of bliss felt tainted by the knowledge that her husband had concealed such a vital part of himself from her. With every passing day, Sarah's resentment morphed into a dangerous obsession. She began to fixate on the idea of retribution, her thoughts spiraling into darker territories. Conversations with friends turned into rants about betrayal, and her words became sharper, laced with an undercurrent of menace. She felt increasingly justified in her anger, believing that Michael's hidden truth warranted a response that transcended mere confrontation. As she grappled with her emotions, Sarah started to imagine scenarios that would allow her to reclaim the control she felt had been stripped away. These thoughts began to manifest in troubling ways. She researched methods for ensuring secrecy, spent late nights contemplating irreversible decisions, and allowed herself to entertain ideas that had once seemed unimaginable. Each idea felt like a means to regain power, a way to assert control over a situation that had spiraled beyond her grasp. Her friends grew increasingly concerned as her behavior escalated, yet she pushed them away, convinced they would never understand the depth of her pain. The isolation only intensified her feelings of betrayal and anger, pushing her further down a dark path from which there seemed to be no return. The emotional weight became a suffocating force, and with each passing day, the line between anger and action blurred. In her mind, the concept of a drastic measure transformed from a fleeting thought into a chilling possibility, an irreversible act that loomed closer, driven by the depths of her despair. In the early hours of a chilly November morning in 2023, a chilling discovery awaited the police at a quaint suburban home in Springfield, Illinois. The serenity of the neighborhood was shattered when a neighbor, alerted by unusual noises coming from the house, decided to investigate. What they found would leave the community reeling: the lifeless body of Michael Davis, brutally murdered in a fit of rage. Upon entering the home, law enforcement was immediately struck by the gruesome scene. Michael lay sprawled on the living room floor, surrounded by chaos. Blood pooled around him, stark against the pale wood of the floor, while remnants of a violent struggle were evident throughout the room. Furniture was overturned, and pictures that once adorned the walls had been torn down, adding to the disarray. The details of the crime scene were horrifying. Michael's body bore multiple wounds, each one a testament to the rage that had consumed his attacker. A kitchen knife, slick with blood, lay discarded nearby, a chilling reminder of the act that had transpired. His once vibrant eyes were now closed forever, and the peaceful expression he wore in life had been replaced by a look of sheer terror. As investigators began to piece together the events leading to this horrific moment, they found themselves grappling with the brutality of the crime. The initial shock of the discovery gave way to a meticulous examination of the evidence left behind. It was clear that Michael had fought for his life, but the overwhelming force of his assailant had ultimately prevailed. News of the murder quickly spread through the community, sending shockwaves that echoed in the hearts of friends and family. The image of the loving couple who had recently exchanged vows just months earlier was now tainted with the horrific reality of betrayal and violence. As the investigation unfolded, the police turned their attention toward Sarah, whose grief and fury would soon become the focus of a chilling narrative of love gone wrong. The scene inside Michael Davis's home was a haunting tableau that would be etched into the memories of those who stumbled upon it. As the sun struggled to break through the morning fog, it cast an eerie glow over the modest suburban house in Springfield, Illinois, now forever tainted by horror. Upon entering the living room, investigators were met with a nightmarish sight. Michael's body lay sprawled across the floor, surrounded by a grotesque display of chaos and violence. Blood splattered the walls and furniture, staining the once cozy space with a vivid reminder of the brutality that had unfolded. The air was thick with an unsettling silence, punctuated only by the distant wail of sirens approaching. Furniture was overturned, as if a violent struggle had taken place. The coffee table was shattered, with shards of glass glinting menacingly in the dim light. Family photos, depicting moments of laughter and love, had been ripped from the walls, their frames lying broken among the debris. A sense of betrayal hung heavily in the air, as if the very essence of their once happy life had been violently torn apart. The most chilling detail lay near Michael's body, a blood-soaked kitchen knife, its blade reflecting the harsh light of the crime scene lamps. The weapon, still gripped tightly in his lifeless hand, suggested that he had fought valiantly for his life, each wound on his body telling a story of desperation and fear. It was a visceral reminder that this was not just a murder. It was a deeply personal act, filled with rage and emotion. Neighbors, drawn by the commotion, began to gather outside, their faces twisted in shock and disbelief. Whispers spread like wildfire, each version of the story more sensational than the last. Many speculated that this was a crime of passion, fueled by hidden resentments and betrayals. They recalled the couple's recent wedding, the glimmer of joy that had once surrounded them, now eclipsed by the sinister reality of Michael's death. In the days that followed, the community grappled with the shocking implications of what had occurred within those walls. The notion that someone who had once professed love could commit such a horrific act seemed unfathomable. The initial disbelief transformed into a morbid curiosity, leaving everyone questioning the dark undercurrents that had led to this tragic end. As detectives began their investigation, the chilling truth of the crime, a betrayal hidden behind a facade of love, would soon unravel, revealing the depths of human emotion and the lengths to which one might go when pushed to the brink. As the sun rose higher over Springfield, Illinois, the gravity of the situation settled heavily on the shoulders of the detectives assigned to the case. Lead investigator Detective Emily Carter, a seasoned officer known for her sharp instincts and unwavering determination, took charge of the investigation. With over a decade of experience in homicide cases, she had seen the darkest sides of humanity, but nothing prepared her for the emotional turbulence this case would bring. Joining her was Detective Mark Thompson, her partner with a reputation for thoroughness and an analytical mind. The two had worked together for years and shared a deep understanding of each other's methods. Together, they formed a formidable team, dedicated to uncovering the truth behind Michael Davis's brutal murder. Upon arriving at the crime scene, Detective Carter quickly assessed the chaos surrounding her. She noted the position of the body, the signs of a struggle, and the chilling evidence that lay scattered throughout the room. The kitchen knife, still slick with blood, became a focal point in their investigation, hinting at the violent altercation that had taken place. Detective Thompson began to canvass the area, interviewing neighbors who had heard the commotion that night. The accounts varied, with some recalling heated arguments, while others spoke of a seemingly normal couple. It was evident that the couple's facade of happiness had masked underlying tensions, and it was up to the detectives to peel back the layers. As they delved deeper, Carter and Thompson turned their attention to Michael's wife, Sarah. Her alibi was crucial, but it quickly became apparent that she was not as forthcoming as they had hoped. Her behavior was erratic, oscillating between despair and anger. While she expressed grief over her husband's death, her emotions felt calculated, as though she were playing a part in a tragic drama. The detectives scrutinized Sarah's social media accounts, uncovering a disturbing trend of increasingly hostile posts directed at Michael. They reached out to family members and close friends, piecing together a timeline that revealed Sarah's growing resentment and bitterness toward her husband after the revelation of his secret. With forensic evidence in hand, including blood spatter analysis and DNA testing, the detectives began to form a clearer picture of what transpired that fateful night. As they collected more evidence, the investigation took a dark turn, revealing that the marriage had been built on secrets and lies. Detective Carter remained relentless, driven by the need to seek justice for Michael. Each piece of evidence brought them closer to the chilling truth. Sarah's once-buried resentment had spiraled into a deadly rage, leading to a crime that would leave a community forever changed. As the investigation unfolded, it became increasingly clear that this was not just a case of murder. It was a tragedy born from betrayal, desperation, and the consequences of hidden truths. The forensic evidence gathered from Michael Davis's crime scene painted a vivid and disturbing picture of the tragic events that unfolded on that fateful night. Detective Emily Carter and Detective Mark Thompson meticulously combed through the details, and what they uncovered would ultimately reveal the horrifying truth behind the murder. Upon examination of the crime scene, forensic teams noted several signs of a violent struggle. Blood spatter was prevalent, with distinct patterns indicating that Michael had put up a fight. The walls bore the remnants of a desperate battle, with blood splashes reaching higher than initially expected, suggesting that the confrontation was not a brief altercation. The position of the body further hinted that Michael had been attacked from behind, a chilling indication of betrayal from someone he had trusted completely. The kitchen knife, which had been the weapon of choice, was particularly telling. It had been wiped clean, but forensic analysis revealed traces of both Michael's and Sarah's DNA on the handle, suggesting that it had been gripped tightly in a struggle. The presence of Michael's DNA indicated he had likely attempted to defend himself, further solidifying the notion that the crime was one of passion rather than premeditation. In addition to the physical evidence, detectives found several inconsistencies in Sarah's initial statement regarding the events of the night. Initially, she claimed she had been asleep when the attack occurred and woke to find her husband dead. However, investigators found it hard to reconcile her version of events with the scene before them. The state of disarray indicated a violent confrontation, raising questions about how someone could sleep through such a tumultuous event. Moreover, detectives discovered that Sarah had sent text messages to friends shortly before the murder, expressing her frustration and anger over her husband's secret. These messages provided a motive for her escalating rage, and they conflicted with her portrayal of shock and grief after the discovery of Michael's body. Forensic experts also analyzed the couple's financial records, revealing signs of strain due to mounting debts and lifestyle discrepancies. The detectives wondered whether financial instability had played a role in Sarah's emotional state, feeding into her resentment and ultimately leading to the horrific crime. As the forensic evidence continued to unfold, the picture became clearer. This was not just a crime of passion, but a culmination of hidden resentments, financial stress, and a betrayal so deep it pushed Sarah to commit an unthinkable act against the person she had once vowed to love. The combination of physical evidence and the unraveling of Sarah's story formed a damning case that would ultimately lead to her downfall. As Detective Emily Carter and Detective Mark Thompson delved deeper into the investigation of Michael Davis's murder, they turned their attention to interviewing close friends and family members. These interviews would prove crucial in piecing together the events that led to the crime and revealing the underlying motives behind Sarah's actions. The detectives began with Michael's parents, who had always perceived Sarah as a devoted wife. They described her as cheerful and supportive, often praising her commitment to their son. However, as they continued speaking, subtle hints of strain began to surface. Michael's mother recounted a conversation she had with him a few months before the murder, where he expressed concerns about Sarah's mood swings and increasing jealousy. He said she was different after the wedding, she recalled, her voice trembling. "I thought it was just the stress of adjusting to married life." Next, the detectives interviewed Sarah's best friend, Jenna. Jenna painted a picture of a woman who had initially been blissfully happy, but recently, her demeanor had shifted dramatically. "Sarah was always so full of life," Jenna recalled, "but ever since she found out about Michael's secret, she seemed angry and withdrawn. She wouldn't talk about it, but I could see the change." When pressed about specific incidents, Jenna remembered a night out with Sarah, where her frustration boiled over. "We were out for drinks, and she suddenly started ranting about trust and betrayal. She said she couldn't believe Michael had lied to her and that he had stolen her happiness," Jenna recounted, her expression a mixture of disbelief and concern. The detectives also reached out to Sarah's family, who had been unaware of any issues between the newlyweds. Sarah's sister, Lisa, expressed shock at the murder, stating, "I had no idea anything was wrong. Sarah always seemed so happy. She never mentioned any problems." However, when detectives pressed her about recent conversations, Lisa recalled Sarah mentioning feeling isolated and misunderstood after the wedding. She said nobody understood what she was going through, "But I never thought it was this serious," Lisa admitted, shaken by the realization that her sister had been struggling alone. The most revealing interviews came from the couple's neighbors. Several reported hearing loud arguments coming from the Davis home in the weeks leading up to the murder. One neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, noted, "I could hear them yelling at each other. It was like they were at each other's throats, but I just thought it was normal newlywed stuff." Another neighbor, Mr. Collins, reported seeing Sarah pacing outside the house on multiple occasions, looking distressed. "She always looked like she was about to burst," he said. "It was unsettling." As the detectives pieced together these testimonies, a clearer picture of the tension between Michael and Sarah began to emerge. The culmination of jealousy, frustration, and betrayal seemed to have created a perfect storm, driving Sarah toward a breaking point. The friends and family interviews not only revealed Sarah's motive, but also highlighted the stark contrast between the couple's public persona and the turmoil that lay beneath the surface. Armed with this information, Detective Carter and Detective Thompson felt increasingly confident in their assessment that Sarah's deep-seated resentment had manifested into an act of violence. The investigation was rapidly shifting from a tragic crime of passion to one marked by betrayal and a desperate need to escape the life that had become unbearable for Sarah. With each new revelation, the case took on a more sinister tone, further entrenching the detectives' resolve to uncover the truth behind this shocking crime. As the trial of Sarah Davis unfolded in the packed courtroom, it quickly became clear that emotions were running high. Family members, friends, and investigators gathered to share their experiences and provide insight into the tragic events leading up to the murder of Michael Davis. The air was thick with tension as the jury and spectators awaited the testimonies that would reveal the devastating impact of Sarah's discovery. The prosecution called Michael's parents to the stand first. His mother, Mary Davis, stepped forward, visibly shaken. With tears streaming down her face, she recounted the joyful memories of her son's wedding day, juxtaposing them with the painful reality of his untimely death. "Michael was so happy," she choked out. "He was excited to start a family, and then he was gone. I never imagined our family would be torn apart like this." Her heartbreak resonated in the courtroom, eliciting muffled sobs from those in attendance. Next, Michael's father, John Davis, took the stand. With a quivering voice, he described the moment he received the call about his son's death. "I thought it was a mistake. I kept asking, 'Are you sure?' Michael can't be gone. The pain of losing my son is something I'll carry with me forever." The room fell silent as the gravity of his words hung heavily in the air. The prosecution then called Sarah's best friend, Jenna, to testify. She appeared visibly distraught, her hands shaking as she took the stand. Jenna spoke candidly about the last few months leading up to Michael's murder. Sarah was not herself after she found out about Michael's secret. She was angry, confused, and hurt. I tried to help her, but she pushed me away. As she spoke about her friend's emotional turmoil, the courtroom felt a collective sense of empathy. Jenna's voice broke as she added, "I never thought it would come to this. I wish I could have done more to help her." Detective Emily Carter was next on the stand, detailing the investigation that led to the uncovering of Sarah's motive. With an unwavering tone, she described the physical evidence and the conflicting statements Sarah had given during the interviews. "We found signs of a struggle, and Sarah's story didn't add up. The emotional weight of her betrayal pushed her to a breaking point," Detective Carter stated, her eyes scanning the jury, urging them to understand the complexity of the case. As the trial progressed, the defense attempted to portray Sarah as a woman pushed to her limits, arguing that her actions were not premeditated, but rather the result of overwhelming emotional distress. Sarah's lawyer called a psychologist to the stand, who testified that Sarah had been experiencing severe anxiety and depression following the discovery of her husband's secret. She was in a state of turmoil, and her mental health deteriorated rapidly, the psychologist explained. This testimony sparked heated discussions among jurors, as they grappled with the notion of accountability in the context of mental health struggles. However, the prosecution countered this narrative with powerful testimonies from the couple's neighbors. They spoke about the increasingly volatile arguments they had witnessed between Michael and Sarah. "You could hear the yelling through the walls," one neighbor recounted. "It was clear something was very wrong in that house." Their words painted a picture of a couple in turmoil, raising questions about Sarah's ability to control her actions in that heated moment. The emotional testimonies culminated in a particularly charged moment when Sarah herself took the stand. With tears in her eyes, she expressed her remorse for her husband's death. "I never wanted this to happen," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "I was scared, and I felt so betrayed. I loved Michael. I just didn't know how to handle what I had discovered." The courtroom was silent, grappling with the complexity of love, betrayal, and the tragic consequences of a hidden truth. As the trial drew to a close, the jurors were left to ponder not only the facts of the case, but also the intense emotional landscape that had led to such a devastating act. The testimonies revealed the true impact of Sarah's discovery, leaving everyone in the courtroom questioning the depths of betrayal and the fragility of love. During the trial of Sarah Davis, the clash between the defense and prosecution created a palpable tension in the courtroom, as both sides presented starkly contrasting narratives about the events leading to the brutal murder of Michael Davis. The prosecution wasted no time in painting a vivid picture of premeditated murder. Lead prosecutor, Mark Stevens, delivered a compelling opening statement, emphasizing Sarah's cold transformation from a loving wife to a woman consumed by betrayal. "This isn't just a crime of passion," he argued, gesturing toward the jury. "This is a calculated act of violence driven by anger and a desire for revenge." Sarah Davis knew what she was doing when she took her husband's life. Throughout the trial, the prosecution presented a mountain of evidence, including text messages between Sarah and her friends that revealed her escalating rage and resentment. One particularly dramatic moment came when they played a recording of a conversation Sarah had with Jenna just days before the murder. In a heated exchange, Sarah had expressed her feelings of betrayal and her frustration with Michael, stating, "I can't believe he lied to me. He deserves to pay for this." The courtroom was silent, the weight of her words resonating as jurors processed the implications of her anger. In contrast, the defense painted Sarah as a victim caught in an emotional maelstrom. Defense attorney Lisa Harmon passionately argued that Sarah's actions were a direct result of severe emotional turmoil. "My client is not a cold-blooded killer. She is a woman who found herself in a nightmarish situation," Harmon proclaimed. During her cross-examination of Detective Emily Carter, she challenged the notion of premeditation. "What evidence do you have that Sarah planned this murder?" she pressed. "All she did was react in a moment of pure, overwhelming pain." One of the most dramatic moments came when Harmon brought in a clinical psychologist who had evaluated Sarah after her arrest. The psychologist testified about the extreme anxiety and depression Sarah had been experiencing, describing her mental state as fragile and unstable. In that moment, she wasn't herself. She was lost in a sea of emotions she couldn't control, the psychologist explained, his voice steady but compassionate. This testimony prompted audible gasps from the audience, as many struggled to reconcile the image of a loving wife with that of a potential murderer. As the trial progressed, the tension heightened when Sarah took the stand. In a heart-wrenching testimony, she recounted her discovery of Michael's secret, describing the overwhelming shock and heartbreak. "I loved him," she cried, her voice breaking. "I felt like my whole world had crumbled beneath me. I didn't know how to handle it." Her emotional plea elicited sympathy from some jurors, who exchanged glances, visibly affected by her distress. However, the prosecution was quick to follow up, questioning her about the moments leading up to the murder. "You had a choice, Sarah. You chose to pick up that knife," Stevens reminded her, driving the point home. In a final dramatic exchange, the prosecution presented evidence of the murder weapon, a kitchen knife, and detailed the extent of Michael's injuries, emphasizing the brutality of the act. "This wasn't a moment of passion. This was an execution," Stevens stated, his voice rising with intensity. "She wanted him dead, and she made sure it happened." The courtroom fell silent, the graphic details leaving a chilling atmosphere that lingered long after the day's proceedings ended. As the trial neared its conclusion, the jury was left to grapple with two conflicting narratives. On one hand, the prosecution's case of premeditated murder, driven by rage and betrayal. On the other, the defense's portrayal of a woman caught in the grip of emotional despair, driven to an irreversible act in a moment of crisis. The dramatic testimonies, paired with the intense exchanges between the two sides, laid bare the complexities of love, loss, and the haunting consequences of hidden truths. As the jury filed back into the courtroom, a tense silence enveloped the room, every eye fixed on the foreperson. When the verdict was finally announced, "We the jury find the defendant, Sarah Davis, guilty of murder," gasps filled the air. The atmosphere shifted dramatically. Disbelief washed over the spectators, many of whom had followed the trial closely. Sarah remained remarkably stoic, her expression almost vacant as the weight of the verdict sank in. It was as if the gravity of her actions had not yet fully registered. In stark contrast, her family members and friends exchanged shocked glances, their faces a mix of sorrow and disbelief. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs, the emotional toll of the trial hanging heavily over everyone present. As the judge prepared for sentencing, the reality of the situation set in. A life had been lost, and another was forever changed. The chilling consequences of betrayal had unfolded in front of them all, leaving a haunting impression that would linger long after the trial concluded. In 2023, the courtroom was once again filled with anxious faces as Sarah Davis stood before the judge for sentencing. The atmosphere was charged with a mixture of anticipation and sorrow, as everyone present grappled with the tragic outcome of the trial. The judge addressed the court, emphasizing the severity of Sarah's actions and the profound loss of life. "The crime committed here is not just an act of violence. It is a heartbreaking betrayal of trust that has forever altered the lives of those involved," the judge stated solemnly. The emotional weight of the words resonated throughout the room, and many in the audience wiped away tears. Sarah was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison, a punishment reflecting the gravity of her actions and the devastating impact on the victim's family and the community. As the sentence was pronounced, Sarah showed little emotion, her face betraying a mixture of resignation and disbelief. Her family and friends, however, were visibly shaken, tears streaming down their faces as they realized the reality of the situation. The judge's words echoed in the air, a stark reminder of the tragic consequences of hidden truths and the lengths betrayal can lead one to go. The sentence served as a haunting conclusion to a case that had captivated and horrified many, leaving the community grappling with the aftermath of a tragedy that could have been avoided. The aftermath of the crime reverberated through both families, creating a rift that would take years to mend, if it ever could. The tragic event not only took a life but also shattered the fabric of two families, leaving them to grapple with grief, anger, and the haunting question of why. Sarah's family was left in disbelief, struggling to comprehend how their daughter, sister, and friend could commit such an unthinkable act. They faced the harsh reality of being associated with a convicted murderer, which brought a wave of judgment and scorn from their community. Conversations turned awkward, friendships faded, and the family felt isolated in their sorrow. Their once celebrated family gatherings became reminders of a loss that was felt deeply, overshadowing any joy. They mourned not just the loss of a life, but the future they had envisioned for their daughter, who had once been filled with hope and promise. On the other side, the family of the husband, Daniel, was shattered by the loss of their beloved son. The sudden, brutal nature of his death left them grappling with an overwhelming wave of grief and anger. Friends and relatives often found themselves in whispered conversations, sharing memories of Daniel and recalling how vibrant he was before the tragedy struck. His parents struggled to understand the circumstances that led to their son's demise and found it hard to forgive. They were haunted by the final moments of his life, replaying the events over and over in their minds, searching for answers that would never come. As time went on, both families sought to heal, but the scars of the violence remained. Support groups and counseling provided some solace, but the pain of loss lingered like an unhealed wound. The community, too, was affected. The chilling story of betrayal and murder became a cautionary tale, sparking discussions about relationships, trust, and the darker side of human nature. Local news outlets covered the story extensively, leaving a lasting impression on the town and transforming it into a place where whispers of the tragedy still echoed. In the end, the senseless violence not only tore apart two families, but also left a deep, indelible mark on the entire community. The haunting reality of what had occurred served as a reminder of the fragility of life and the devastating consequences that can arise from hidden secrets and unchecked emotions. Springfield was left stunned and reeling in the wake of the crime. The community, once characterized by its close-knit relationships and vibrant social life, became engulfed in an atmosphere of unease and disbelief. News of the murder spread like wildfire, and the story quickly became a focal point of conversation among residents. For weeks, the town was abuzz with discussions about the events leading up to the tragic murder, the discovery of the crime, and the subsequent trial. Local cafes and parks turned into informal gathering spots where people shared their shock and horror over what had transpired. Parents became more vigilant, warning their children about the importance of communication and honesty, as the story served as a painful reminder of the dangers that could lurk beneath the surface of seemingly normal relationships. The crime also sparked community forums and discussions on mental health, the importance of addressing hidden emotions, and the need for support systems to prevent such tragedies from occurring in the future. Residents were reminded that unchecked rage and undisclosed secrets could lead to devastating consequences, emphasizing the importance of open communication in relationships. Memorials sprang up in honor of Daniel, with flowers, candles, and heartfelt notes left by friends and strangers alike. These tributes not only honored his memory, but also reflected the community's shared grief. Vigil gatherings were held to foster healing and connection, allowing residents to support one another in their collective sorrow. As time passed, the chilling memory of the crime began to fade, but the lessons learned from it lingered. Springfield became a community determined to transform its pain into advocacy, ensuring that the tragedy would not be forgotten and that conversations about mental health, relationship dynamics, and emotional honesty would continue. The hope was that by fostering a culture of openness and support, future generations could avoid the pitfalls that led to such a devastating loss. The crime left an indelible mark, serving as a constant reminder of the importance of addressing the complexities of human relationships and the unseen battles that so many face. This case reveals how the weight of hidden truths can turn love into something far more dangerous, with deadly consequences for all involved. It serves as a poignant reminder that what lies beneath the surface of our relationships can have profound implications for our lives and those we hold dear. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this tragic story. Did justice truly prevail, or do you believe more could have been done to prevent this heartbreaking outcome? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more true crime content, and share your insights in the comments below. Your engagement helps us continue to shine a light on these important issues. Thank you for watching.